this really has been kind of an amazing journey for me, and I suspect for a lot of people in our community. And it actually starts before the town council meeting for me, because when in Washington, after a peaceful protest was broken up and the mayor decided to paint Black Lives Matter street in Washington, having lived there for 20 years, I was applauding that. That was cool. I really thought it was. But it's really one of these kind of classic things. Where you stand depends on where you sit. I wasn't on the council there. I wasn't no longer a homeowner there. I had no responsibility. I could just say, hey, that was an interesting gesture. Then when we come Chestertown, and when the proposal was first made for painting down the main street of Chestertown in the historic area, I immediately began thinking of ramifications, least of which being, hey, most people who own houses there have to get permission to change a window or the color of a shutter or some such thing. More serious concern for me was, all right, what happens if we allow one group to paint something and then you've given a permit to them and the next group comes in? Why not us, and why not us? And maybe even more important to me was, what about the people who I personally believe really are convinced that Black Lives Matter and it's important to them, but still aren't eager to paint the streets? And could we find common ground about a banner or a pennant or a sign or a logo or something of that sort? And I was desperately searching for that. And so I was really, I like to think of myself as a loyal opposition. I was raising some potential objections to this. There was one breakthrough in terms of the particular legal part of being sued, and I'll give Jim Osterkon credit for that. None of us had really thought about this distinction between a public forum and government speech. And if we start giving permits to this group and then that group, that really is a public forum. But if, and you go back to the Supreme Court case on this, which was unanimous and written by Scalia, it really says if this is an act by the town or by the government to put up one statue and not another, 10 commandments but not something else, that's government speech. And if the townspeople don't like it, they can vote you out, which is clearly the case here. But it is not a requirement that because you approve or you endorse one thing. And it was significant for us. If you look out there on the street, not only does it say Black Lives Matter, but it says Chestertown unites against racism. And that was important to us. Some people may think, oh, that was just a minor add-on. But it does a couple of things. One, it distinguishes a little bit between Black Lives Matter, the organization, and simply the concept that Black lives, like all lives, clearly matter. Or some would say all lives don't matter unless Black Lives Matter, which I also agree with. But what it also does is it puts our stamp on that Chestertown stamp, and it says this is government speech. This is something we endorse. So as you know, I started off kind of in opposition to this, and ultimately we had a unanimous vote in support. And I'm pleased we did. And I was out here Saturday, and it was such a diverse group there, and a good-spirited group. I was really very pleased. And it really is a framework to which we can subsequently add additional items. It starts with unification, which is largely symbolic but important. Then has a major education component and would include videos on history of racism in the area, would include some signage. I hope it is expanded to include a tutoring program, which is going to be really critical. What I'm really looking for are some substantive points that we can do. Symbols are fine, but I don't want somebody to raise a flag and say, oh, we've accomplished it all. The flag is there. And we've got to take on substantive issues. And I think tutoring would be an important component of that. We have many children who are falling behind in school. We know if they get a couple years behind on reading, for example, it's almost impossible to catch up. And yet we've got dozens, maybe hundreds of people in our area who are quite well qualified and willing to tutor on a volunteer basis. And I think we need to work towards that. Then on the legislation component, and this will include a variety of things. It includes working with the police to bring about reforms, and some of this has already been done. They've done reached an agreement on a duty to intervene. If one policeman should see somebody acting inappropriately, they have an obligation to step forward, even if that person is their superior officer, and to intervene in that. And that's going to be important. And the sheriff has also agreed to this. There will be a review of our zoning, make sure that there's not some inadvertent policy there that acts against minority communities setting up businesses. Another area has to do with a review of our tax policy. And you may know this is something I've been working on for some time under the name of a tax differential. And an example of this is that our county refuses to contribute toward the paving and maintenance of our roads. And this county is one of only 3 in the state of Maryland that do this, that those of us who live in the town, are really discriminated against because we pay the same county taxes as those who live outside, but we do not get the same services as those who live outside. So if you live just over the borderline, and you'll see this next winter when it snows, the snow plows will come right up to our boundary and make a U-turn and go back. They will not provide services nor contribute financially for the maintenance of our roads. It's a similar situation with regard to public safety. If we didn't have a police force here, the county would have to provide for public safety, and yet they refuse to contribute toward ours. They may feel that we don't need as many police as we have. Maybe they think we could do it with 6 or 7. That'd be fine. Help pay for that 6 or 7 and we'll pay the rest. Now the sheriff does occasionally come, but usually on the way to the courthouse. They're not the first responder for public safety problems. And again, Kent County, Worcester County, and Wacomico are the only 3 counties in our state that discriminate in this fashion. And it's particularly irksome because if you look closely at the finances of this, the median household income countywide is about $56,000 per household, and in Chestertown it's $46,000, significantly lower. Yes, we have some rich people and we have some poor people. In fact, we have the highest poverty in the county or of any municipality. We also have the highest minority in the county. And I think that we need to call this what it is, that this is discrimination, not on the basis of race, but on the basis of where we live. And we need to get our county to recognize this and provide us with an explanation as to why, when this is done in Queen Anne's County, a recompense is provided in Queen Anne's and in Cecil County, every county on the Western Shore, but not right here. So it becomes there are implications for racial inequities within that.